Hello and welcome back to another episode of Taking Back Saturday, our Happy Buyers Club podcast where we break down the real estate market each and every Friday and help home buyers build confidence, follow a process and hopefully buy really well. I'm your host, Chayse Jones, and joining me today is a very special guest. He is a North Queensland Cowboys supporter, so he has managed to find his way through security today, but he is also a world-class real estate agent. He's one of the good guys. He's the king of Carina. It's Patrick Ivey from Harcourts Property Centre. How are you, Pat?
Thank you for having me, Chayse. It's an absolute pleasure. I'd just like to make one thing clear. I am not a rock star. I'm a short, balding man from the suburbs. Now, mate, I'm privileged to be here, though. It's going to be a bit of fun today. Have a bit of a chin wag with you, my friend. A great local buyer's agent. He's been through plenty of our opens, gets all the pre-market opportunities. If you're looking to buy, you got to talk to this young man.
Fantastic. And that'll do
How's that for a plug?
podcast.
Is that enough?
Wrap it up, everyone. Mate, I was going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself, but you've just, far away. Mate, let's just get straight on it. How long have you been in real estate for, Pat?
9 years. So next year will be 10. It's 2015 is when I started. One office, one shop, one patch. I haven't really changed. But I think time in market's important there. I think consistency comes as well with time in market, and the more boards you get up, the more open homes you're doing, the more buyers and sellers you naturally meet throughout the process. So I wouldn't say that the grass is greener by jumping markets or trying to transition out. If anything, we've tried to climb up into the prestige arm a little, which has been an enjoyable experience too. Obviously higher price points and you are exposing yourself to bigger fees, but it is also a very competitive space up there, from units right through to prestige.
So would you say that Cooperoo, Carina Heights, you chose them or did they choose you?
They chose me. I wanted Carindale, but I was never good enough for Carindale at the time. But they were the big McMansions and, lots of people that had been there 20, 30 years plus. So when a young kid on the block came through, it was poorly received. So naturally I sort of fell into that first home buyer market, which was selling post-war homes, through 2015, 16, 17. And then, eventually climbed into some bigger stuff into the 2020s.
Do you feel like things have changed in like the agency space in the last 9 years? Like what's different now than it was back in 2015?
Definitely. I think no price marketing is really big now. I think back then everything was price when I started. Offers over 650, offers over 750. Buyers sort of understood a little bit better with values. And I think that's why the buyer's agency space has grown so much as no price marketing's come in, because buyers are unsure on where to place offers and where the value actually really lies. And that's something no doubt that you've noticed too. Auctions are certainly bigger than ever in Brisbane. And buying property prior to auction, there is a knack to it, but also buying at auction.
Well, you're not wrong, because like that sort of frustration that buyers have around, no price marketing, it goes both ways. You put a price on something now and it goes well beyond it, and there's just as much frustration. But like, how do you handle those frustrations? If a buyer comes to you and they're clueless, they've got no idea as to what market value looks like, whether it be, they haven't been in market long or they're just truly blind to the process. How do you or your team sort of help them down the road a little bit?
Transparency through comparable sales and just talking them through, look, the owners set their expectation based on next door selling for 1.8. Look, their home's a little bit bigger than that. But next door, slightly better finished at 1.8 mil. If you've got a budget from that number, I highly recommend you coming to inspect. So just using, comps as a guide, I suppose. We're not reinventing the wheel by that, but, some agents will just say, look, Queensland legislation prevents me from saying, I think that's quite frustrating. You've got to, just pull off comps, but also just ask again, what's your budget? Do you mind if I ask? What have you missed out on? Was there a home you really liked? Why'd you like it? Just sort of unpacking that and then trying to help them buy something from there.
It's like a balance, right, isn't it? You've got to be somewhat human. You can't just hit them with total bullshit that you've never spoken to the vendor about pricing, but you can sort of guide them in the right direction. Like if someone came to you and offered on a property that you had listed well under market, just almost insultingly under market, how do you sort of, again, help them to sort of not embarrass them or make them feel stupid or anything like that? But what's the process there? Is it a similar thing where you're almost like, guys, we need to be sort of up here based on comps? Do you get that much?
Yeah, we do. And, it happened only last week on a property that we had in Murray where, they came in 150K below asking price. And generally I would always say, look, no worries, thanks for your offer. I'll take it through to the sellers and I'll be in contact with you. But on this instance, I just sort of said, thanks so much for your offer. The sellers have actually received interest higher than this number. They've received interest 100, 150K higher than this. If you could please consider improving and coming back to us. And then straight away they wrote the big long email, based on this, and this, that we're not improving. I said, no worries, thanks so much and all the best with your search. We'll keep an eye out for similar homes. And that sort of disarming process got them straight back on the horse to go, no, actually we'll go up 100. So straight up they went, to 1.2 mil, which still wasn't enough to buy it. But back and forth that afternoon, we got them to the 125, which was asking, and we went under contract that arvo. So I think, buyers just sort of want to get their piece out to the seller, let them know that they think they're unrealistic or unreasonable and just have their say.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if their motive is bigger than, just trying to defend their pride, if their motive is to upsize for their family, of course they're going to pay fair money. And we weren't asking unfair money. I'd sold the property 4 years prior for only 170, and today's listing price 125. The market's actually increased higher than that, but the owners wanted a quick sale, and that's why we sort of had to let them know that there won't be too much budging here. This is sort of their break-even number for X and Y reasons, but we got there in the end. But that's sort of an example of how we'd handle it.
That's it. Like most buyers, they do want their 2 cents. Like they want to tell you why they're offering what they're offering, and almost justifying it. But it is a process of education, on both sides. Like it's for you to sort of guide them as to if this is the property for them. If they are emotional enough about it that they are offering on it and hoping to buy it, then here's how we can make that happen, and we can do that together.
Yeah.
Buyer and seller. That's how we do it. That's how Pat and I do it.
I think it's important.
Collaboration.
100%. And, we want to do over 100 deals a year. We can't be out there burning buyers through the process of helping them buy a home. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it is a little more challenging than that. It'll take weeks to get some sort of agreement on bottom line from the seller and top dollar from the buyer. But at the end of the day, if we can just smooth that process over with good communication and at the pre-settlement and at the settlement, make that experience just that little bit more enjoyable, because it's pretty low entry level to real estate, as you know, and therefore our competitors, sometimes they are just about the seller and the deal and getting paid and moving on, whereas we know in 5-10 years' time we might get that buyer's business back. And if you look at some of our listings, we got 20 to 25 on the go at any time. I'd say 30%, so 1 in 3 of those listings are actually properties I've sold in the past and have got repeat business because we put a lot of effort in muscle into the relationship with the buyer.
Yeah. That's a wonderful testament to the way that you and your team do business. If 30% of your sellers are former buyers, awesome. You've obviously given them an experience through opens, negotiating, pre-settlement, settlement, and beyond that they've remembered, and they're like, I want my potential buyers to feel like that as well.
Definitely.
Like you say that you're looking at doing 100 deals in a year, and that's a big number. But for most people, they might only be selling once, twice, 5 times in their entire life. How do you juggle that, the emotion where it obviously means the world to them and it's all they'd be thinking about at any one time, and yet you and your team might be looking after 5 to 10 deals week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out? How do you sort of navigate those feelings and make sure it feels special to every single seller, every single time, every single week?
Every situation is very personable with a homeowner because every property is so different and their situation is very different. But understanding, have we got rapport with these people? Do we have mutual friends with them? What due diligence on them can we do prior to the meeting so that when we do meet with them, that there's a little bit more trust established early? So throughout the process, yes, we're busy, but we do have a process and a system that works for us, which is designing a group chat where everyone gets notified with updates throughout the piece. Simple. WhatsApp or iMessage change your life. And actually a very close friend of mine, Nathan Strudwick, shout out to Struddy, put me onto that really simple strategy, which ensures that they know what's going on every step of the way, even small updates like, hey guys, we've received 3 inquiries over the last 24 hours. 2 of those buyers have the appropriate budget, 1 doesn't. Told that buyer not to waste their time with it. Just simple dialogue so they know that you are defending their price at all times. And then buyer follow-up on a Monday, ensuring that it's a phone call, not just a text. And then also on a Saturday, giving them a phone call after the open home. I know that that's not reinventing the wheel, but that's where we can get a little lazy. And it would be easy to just shoot a text. But ensuring that phone call is personable, they can hear your voice, is important. And then a face-to-face meeting, if you can, once a week or once a fortnight, I think, so that they can remember who they engage with at the listing table is important. And then they also know that you're not too busy, that you can't meet with them. I do a lot of business in the suburbs, and a lot of my properties are around the corner from each other. It's quite easy for me to align a time to catch up with them after after a property around the corner, etc.
Nice one.
And then Saturdays are really important because they're your opens, obviously, and just trying to push for offers during those opens and reporting back to them with any offers on the Saturday instead of waiting till early next week. Trying to wrap them up on a Saturday night instead of a Monday morning if you can. But look, we get paid for a result. They want to see results. Yeah, they want an experience, but if you can get them top dollar and still have quite a good experience, that's probably more important to them than an amazing experience with a really shit sale price.
100%, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you hear of the agent that gets the fantastic result, but yet the process and the experience throughout was garbage, and it's because of that high level of communication that you and your team have. Whereas even if there's little or nothing to be said, there is still a point of contact at all times, and it is a set process with every single client, every single time, right through Saturdays, Mondays, face-to-face, WhatsApp meetings, Zoom calls, whatever it may be. Just those constant and consistent points of contact to keep people updated is something they appreciate.
Some owners will require a different level of service. Your higher-end owners naturally will need to be spoken to more often, and some of your entry-level first-time sellers that are selling their unit, they've never done it before. They don't know that you need to make contact with them once every 48 hours. They're sort of thinking,
what are you calling me about?
They're sort of thinking, okay, we'll prep for next Saturday's open on the Monday morning and we'll talk to you after Saturday. But no, you've got to have a little bit more communication there because, if a deal does come your way, you've got to sort of have them ready for that chat as well. And all the way along the line, you're sort of planting seeds and closing doors too. If we're not sold after 3 weeks, why? It's either presentation, price, or marketing. What can we do to improve the marketing? Let's reshoot photos, or let's start doing 2 opens on a Saturday, or let's pull the midweeks because midweeks weren't working. Let's do Saturday morning instead, or can the Thursday night. So there's always things that you could be tweaking if you don't want to tweak price, but ultimately the market turns up when they see value and when the numbers are right.
Yeah, I think that we, despite sitting on opposite sides of the table on real estate wise, like you on the sales side and me on the buying side of things, it is very similar. That high level of communication that you have with your clients, particularly early on and even pre-engagement, pre-listing for yourself, it sort of gives you the leeway that they then trust you enough that when you need to have a hard conversation after 3 weeks, you can have it. We have a similar thing. If we have an offer on property after 3 weeks, we start having conversations about why. Are we going to persist with what we're doing, or are we going to pivot and sort of go in a different direction, compromise on something and go down a different path? It's all part of eventually
expectation management. Yeah.
Exactly right, and get the result in the end. How are you feeling the market sits right now, first week of August?
A little lethargic and patchy. We've had January through June was growth on growth on growth, right? But it was good the RBA put things on pause, happy days, but we haven't really noticed any translation of confidence back in August. Market hasn't gone backwards, but it just hasn't given us the legs. Mind you, back end of July was still pretty hot. We did a fair few transactions through the month of July, but August just been a little patchy so far. But I think that as we get into late August, into spring, we'll be seeing the market surge again.
Because everyone's in Europe with their cocktails out and their feet on the beach in Santorini.
It's a very good point.
It's actually a really good time to buy in July, because agents are, for the most part, not Pat, obviously, but like pretty keen to get on that flight. And you're like, yeah, we'll take that off your hands.
Love that.
Just like the week of Christmas.
Of course.
Most memorable moment in real estate for you? Now, it doesn't have to be the highest sale price you've ever achieved, but what's one of the most memorable moments that you've had in real estate in the last 9 years?
Tell you a memorable moment, but probably not my most positive memorable moment, was my first auction I ever called in Burleigh. And I was nervous as I was driving down the M1. I was taking wrong turns and I was just quite scattered coming into the auction because, a lot of anxiety. But I got to the auction, full crowd. You could see the ocean. It's just a packed, old school 70s brick and tile. Shout out to Justin Nickerson, great auctioneer. I was working at Apollo and, I had a heckler. So, when you got a heckler and it's your first auction, you're not trained, right, to deal with hecklers.
This wasn't in the manual.
It certainly wasn't. But you know what? We still sold it above reserve, happy days, and we put the heckler to bed. But in terms of memorable positively, I don't know. I probably think maybe highest sale price, which was a deal with Sammy Devlin, who's our director at Harcourts Property Centre. Sammy and I had sold a property on Milsom Street, which is just around the corner from where we're sitting today, and selling that for 4.3 was a pretty cool result to be a part of. And those owners are legends and have given us repeat business. So I think that's the nature of the beast, right? If you can, start hitting certain sale prices, you start to get into that top end of the market slowly but surely, which is where I'd love to spend a bit more time in the future.
Nice one. I've seen the new Prestige branding that's been getting out a bit lately. It looks great. Looks
Sharp,
really,
isn't it?
really
What's
nice.
your most memorable moment in your buyer's advocacy career today?
Mate, I think that the first one's always, like you said, like that first auction for you. I think our first purchase for us was the biggest one. It was almost like you get into this and you can do all the prep in the world, you read all the manuals, read all the books, study everything, sort of think you've got a process established, but still you've got to put your money where your mouth is and actually go out and achieve a result. And it was almost like that was for us like justifying everything we were doing, because we are trying to do things a little bit different, and we are very like high touch with everything we do. There's a lot of communication. It is above and beyond. We are fixed fees. Like all that sort of stuff is a little bit of a change from what our competitors do, and so we had to put up or shut up. And I think that first one was such a huge milestone for myself. Sam's been in real estate for 15 years. I've done a lot of learning in the last year, a lot of like challenging moments, but that was a big one. And it's just gone, and it just snowballed from there. We've had a wonderful 12 months.
Yeah.
And like it would be remiss of me to say that like each week is not a highlight. Each next purchase is like the ones you'll remember, I think, because in your first 12 months, you're like, yeah, I remember every one of those buyers. I remember every one of their stories, and I remember all their whys, and I remember that feeling of when we secured them their property. And it's just awesome stuff you'll never forget. Speaking of buyers and getting into the market, how can buyers that are coming through a Pat Ivey open home stand out from the crowd?
I think buying with intent, making it crystal clear from the get-go, here to buy today, I've got a pre-approval in place. I missed out on an auction the other day. I'm ready to go. Whether it's that home that they're in or there's going to be something else on my books, it's good to know that they're organised. Whereas, often me buyers, they don't even want to engage with agents at opens, and I understand that, especially if there's no prior relationship. You wouldn't go out of your way necessarily, but it is still nice to say, g'day to Jules, myself, Gore, Shane, like just make yourself sort of known, because we flag you in the CRM system with just some rough comments like young couple came through, or, looking because they've got a couple of pets or whatever. Like we'll just make notes as we're sort of talking to them there and then, or buying for school catchment. So on a Monday when we do follow them up, we're sort of picking up where we left off. I remember we were speaking Paget Street the other day. You liked the Mayfield State School was close by, but you obviously didn't want to be right on the school. You want to be sort of a few streets over. We actually just listed something on Bradnor Street, Karina. We wanted to table that with you firstly. You can still walk the kids to Mayfield State School. Like, I think that would be cool if you could just share a little bit more insight with the selling agent. But yeah, just maybe being a bit more confident with your terms and conditions as well. And, instead of 21 days, if your broker said you can actually do it in 7 to 14, let's try do it in 7 and 14, because the sellers don't want to be hanging around for, longer than what they need to be at the moment.
Hey, guys, listeners to Taking Back Saturday, we've been telling you this for months. And look, here's an agent in the flesh telling you the same thing. Don't be coy. If something is suitable, you like it, you're there, you know enough about the property, you're pre-approved, you're confident, tell them as much. But make yourself known. Hi, Pat, I'm Chayse. I have missed out on an auction 2 weeks ago. This is the property for me. I intend on buying it. How do we do so? And to the second point, having those crucial conversations with your solicitors, your mortgage brokers ahead of time. Once you find something that is suitable, hey, I'm going to offer on this thing. How tight can we make the terms so that when you then present those to your vendors, you can say, hey, I know these guys. They are keen. They are ready. They have missed out on something in the past. I've got notes on them in my CRM.
Correct. We need a narrative because sellers appreciate that. Sellers ask a lot of questions, funnily enough. Who's the buyer? What's their story? And if you can equip the agent with a little bit more, it'll allow you leverage in the system. No, unsurprisingly. But I think you're spot on.
There's no point, like obviously buyers out there, you don't have to give away your complete financial position or anything like that. But, that is, you offer in accordance with where you see value, but will not do you any disservice by telling them why you're purchasing in the area or why you liked it and why you intend on trying to purchase the property. Because like you said, you've got a agent then who will potentially be vouching for you at a kitchen table that night. Things move quickly at the moment. So, the more you can do to make yourself stand out, do it.
The best buyers that I've seen have acted quickly. First open home, first week, even though they're compromising, haven't ticked every box on the home. They bought, and then the market continues to grow around them. So if you don't buy and you dawdle, you may be costing yourself 5% in the long run.
Yeah.
which is a lot of money that could go towards your stamp duty or, some renovations on the property that wasn't perfect. Like, I know that is a very vague way of seeing it, but it's still, what I'm saying is what I've seen. And I've seen, buyers do so well because they just went, you know what, it's not perfect, but I'll just do it.
Buy the 7 out of 10. If you see the 7 out of 10 that ticks enough boxes, go for it. Any other tips for buyers this weekend besides buy from Pat Ivey?
Buy from Julie Halliday.
Love it. He's Pat. I'm Chayse.
Thanks, Chayse.
Cue the song.